welcome back to my channel. I hope everybody is doing well today. If you're new, welcome, and if you're not, thank you so much again for tuning in with me today. So I actually posted on my Instagram and asked you guys for YouTube ideas, and you guys, thank you so much. You guys really came through. So I want to thank Jamie for today's video. You really gave me this good idea. So I'm going to be reviewing my favorite binge-worthy TV shows that you can be watching right now during quarantine. I know a lot of you guys are about to start or near the end of your exam season, but once that's done, you have all this free time to watch TV. And when I mean binge-worthy, I mean I'm giving you all shows that have at least 2 to 3 seasons, okay? So it's, you know, you don't have to wait for the new episodes to come out, okay? As usual, I have my little green book with me to give me a list of the shows just in case I forget anything. But I am really excited. I'm very, not passionate, but I do love film and I love TV a lot. I'm not like a critic or anything. I just think watching TV isn't actually a waste of time, and I find myself learning a lot from television, more than I would expect. So yeah, so I'm not like a connoisseur, but you know, let's do it anyways. First one I'm going to mention is actually one of my favorite, and the reason I'm mentioning it first is because they just ended their finale. It's the end of the show, their 10th season, okay? It's called Hawaii Five-O, and I know a lot of you guys feel like maybe it's like a old people's show. It's been filming for obviously like 10 years, so it definitely does well for itself. It's on CBS, and what I recommend is the first 6 seasons. First 6, 7 seasons are the best. There's such good banter between the 2 male characters, and it's not one of those shows that just focus on love interests. It's very much about a partnership amongst, you know, cops, that family kind of dynamic. And honestly, guys, the main character is named Steve McGarrett. He's so good looking. He's so pretty. And I recommend this show because it's a feels-good show, and it always cheers me up if I'm feeling upset, and it's so binge-worthy. Once you start and then you see the banter and the relationship between the first 2 characters, you're gonna love it. And it really does pull on heartstrings sometimes. It's a cop show, okay, so yeah, sometimes certain scenes are a little unrealistic, but what show isn't? Right? So this is the first show I'm recommending, mainly because they just ended. They have 10 full seasons, so clearly I'm not the only one who definitely loves it. So you can give that a try if you're bored. And like I said, the first couple seasons when the cast is the youngest, the best looking, you know, that's when all the hype really hits its peak, is the first couple of seasons. The next show I want to talk about is called Killing Eve. This came out a little while ago. They're currently airing the 3rd season, okay? It just started last Sunday, so you have time to catch up all the first 2 seasons and then watch the 3rd one with me. It follows this girl named Villanelle. She's what you would call the class act psychopath. She's the main character, and her counterpart is, her name is Eve. The actress is Sandra Oh. I'm sure a lot of you guys know her from Grey's Anatomy, but they end up in this very unhealthy and strange, toxic, obsessive relationship with each other, where it's very cat and mouse. Eve's the cop, and she keeps on hunting Villanelle, but Villanelle's a psychopath, and she just keeps on killing people. I don't want to give anything away, but this dark and twisted kind of show is just super suspenseful. It's really thrilling. I really enjoy it. It's almost like every episode is like a cliffhanger, and although Villanelle is this crazy psychopath murderer, you can't help but love her. And the directors just do such a great job, and the script as well. And I mean, I'm not the only one to think so, because they've won like 3 BAFTAs already, which is, if you guys know, it's a British award. And I really urge you guys to just check it out. The next show I'm gonna go over is, it's almost intellectual. Like, it really gets you to think about what the show is discussing, and almost it questions like people's existence. It's not a feels-good show, okay? Like, you don't walk away from the show light as air. You walk away with like lots of questions in your mind, and you're just questioning the next episode, and you're wondering like who you are as a person. Like, it's crazy. It's really dark. So if you're not into that, and you always like to feel good after a show, maybe don't watch that because it does really make you question a lot of things. And it's called Westworld. Westworld is basically surrounding AI, which is artificial intelligence. Without giving too much away, because there's a lot of plot twists in this. Okay, so you have a theme park with robots, and you get to go in there and to live this story, and you get to kill people, you get to do whatever you want, and you go in there and you get to interact with these robots as if they were real people, but they're not, so you get to do whatever you want. It's basically a play park for the rich. You get to stay in there as long as you want. This whole show is just surrounding AI, and it questions, you know, the difference between artificial intelligence and just being human. You do learn, now this is not a spoiler, but this is just, you know, for people who don't know, the main difference between AI and being human is that AI don't have that stream of consciousness. AI doesn't know what consciousness is. They don't act on their own accord, right? We program them, and there's an algorithm that they follow. So that's what this show really explores, and I found it fascinating. It's heavy, and you're gonna feel very like weighed down, but I still love it because we like to think and question stuff that's going on, which is why I really absolutely love Westworld. The next one I'm gonna mention is two foreign shows. I personally don't mind reading subtitles, especially when it comes to Spanish shows. I think it's fascinating, you know, like hearing the European Spanish. I love it, and I've actually been learning quite a few words, mainly the bad ones because they keep repeating it. But I do really enjoy it. If reading subtitles isn't your thing, you can always listen to it in English. I don't recommend it though. It just doesn't sound the same, and you know, English voiceovers is super over dramatic, and it doesn't work well with the show. But nonetheless, I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen this going around on Netflix. It's called Money Heist. So in Spanish, it's La Casa de Papel, which is House of Paper, basically, is roughly translates to. Currently just came out with season 4. Obviously, I binged it in one day. Amazing, amazing. Without giving too much away, it's a bunch of Spanish, I guess you could say, delinquents, but intelligent delinquents, and like kind of robbers and criminals basically come together and plan the biggest heist ever. It's about family as well. This gang really gets to eventually know and love each other. And what I think sets this show apart from any other heist show is the intellect and knowledge and planning that goes through. Like, them and the police are in like this game of cat and mouse, but the bank heister seems to always find a way to come up on top, and that's what I love watching. I think it's so interesting seeing how the directors and the writers decided to do it. I think it's actually genius. I think if the writers wanted to, they could go pull off this heist perfectly because they wrote a perfect storyline and script. So that's my first Spanish show. The second one is not like a crime drama. It's just kind of drama. Basically, Gossip Girl meets the darkness of Riverdale all on crack. It's called Elite, and it's about, obviously, the elite, the richest of the rich, going to the school called Las Encinas in Spain. Obviously, you have, like, the rejects, and you have the really rich people, and there's a bit of clash there, like there was in Gossip Girl. Lots of drug use, hooking up. It's a lot of, you know, that aspect from Gossip Girl, but then you also have this twist, okay? So currently they have 3 seasons out, and in each season there's like a murder. Like, one of the kids is murdered, and you spend the entire season trying to figure out who it is. They always leave little breadcrumbs here and there. It's kind of funny because it's, in my opinion, not the most realistic show, but I'm also not the top 1%er, right? Maybe they really do live like that, and I couldn't possibly know, but I just really loved it. This Gossip Girl, I really like that kind of drama. I mean, nothing's going on in my life right now, so I have to get my drama somewhere, and it's just really fun to watch. It's one of those shows that you, in my opinion, can't put down. Yeah, and they deal with a lot of problems, including Islamophobia, homophobia, conflict between class. You have your upperclassmen, your lowerclassmen, and the power of money, and, you know, the kind of power people have over those who don't. Honestly, I thought it was a lot of fun watching, but this is definitely one of those things you will kind of feel like you're losing brain cells. It's a drama, it's a soap drama, and it's Spanish. Okay, what do you guys expect? It's super Gossip Girl on crack is the best way I can explain it. But that's my 2 suggestions for foreign shows. Obviously, you can find these all on Netflix. Oh, here's another one for Netflix. This is also a drama, action drama, I guess you could say. It's called The Witcher. It had its moment, okay, back in, I would say, December. That's when it was really, really crazy on Netflix. But I just love it so much. I really thought I would mention it now, too. I would say, like, medieval fantasy. Henry Cavill, aka Superman, is the main character. He's the Witcher. So this was actually based on a series of books, which unfortunately I didn't read, and video games that I didn't play. But nonetheless, I know some people are kind of mad about the way they interpreted it, but coming from somebody who didn't see the prior, storyline and the character arc, I still really enjoyed it. So for those who do say the plot line's a little weak, I have to admit, it's definitely not the strongest link of this entire show. But you have to realize that you don't necessarily just watch a show because of its plot. It could be about the way it was filmed. They have intense action fight scenes that I really like watching that took months and months of preparation. Like, you see these actors have trained. They all do their own stunts. Henry Cavill does his own stunts. There's a lot of talk about fitting in and finding out who you really are, learning to love yourself. There's about responsibility, about trust and disloyalty as well, about factions fighting each other. So it's really not just about plot. It does take in quite a few important topics that society faces as well. Yeah, so there's a lot of dark underlying issues that they do touch upon. Even though the storyline's not perfect, it does still manage to hook you in, and I finished it in like 2 days as well. Very, very binge-worthy. First season's out on Netflix, so definitely give that a watch if you're into that kind of stuff. So I'm going to talk a bit about documentaries, so like the Netflix docuseries that you guys obviously see all around Netflix. So I'm a huge fan, like I said, about crime and stuff like that, and I think the most interesting thing, it is very freaky and scary, don't get me wrong, but there's, you can watch all this fictional stuff, but what about the real stuff that's been going on? Like, actual serial killers that have lived amongst us. For instance, Ted Bundy as well, who was basically guilty of admittedly 32, but his killings were assumed to be over 100. This is not TV, this is real. Like, obviously I watched the Bundy tapes. Do it if you're not the light of heart, okay, because it is freaky, okay, I'm not gonna lie. It's not a walk in the park, but you know what? It teaches you about stuff. It makes you more vigilant, and I'm not encouraging you to be scared of every single person out in the world today in society, but it does teach you to be vigilant. It shows you how these serial killers operate, and it really, in my opinion, especially as a girl, does make me want to be more careful and watch out for certain signs if I'm just out in the street and somebody approaches me. Obviously, you have the trials of Gabriel Hernandez as well. This one's a little different than the Bundy tapes. He was not like a serial killer. This was a documentary that talked about Gabriel Hernandez, which was this little boy who, due to neglect of the social care system, abuse, harsh mental, physical abuse of his parents, basically passed away. His parents were charged, but the worst part about it was that it was preventable. It was on a child who basically died of abuse. Social workers were at his house, teachers were being notified, and the social justice system just let him down really, really badly. It was the first ever time in history where 4 social workers were in fact tried as well. Their charges were let go, but anyways, I'm just telling you guys these things because it's not just about murder. It's about the social justice system in LA, in the rest of the states, even here in Canada. It's about knowing that there's so many less fortunate. There's kids out there who need help, and to never turn a blind eye. I think I cried throughout this entire documentary, but I still recommend it. I do think it really opens your eyes up to a lot of the important topics that are going around. It's reality, and not to be naive about it or anything. It's reality, and you need to be educated on it, not to repeat the same mistakes that were done in that show. Another really good documentaries is Mind of Aaron Fernandez. So a few of you guys probably have seen it or heard of him at least. He was a football player. Everybody loved him, but he was basically tried for murder. Had passed away a couple years ago, but this documentary is about him, about his football career, about the crimes he committed, about the dual life that he was living in the spotlight versus his personal life, some bad people that he got mixed up with. This was pretty good as well because, in my opinion, we idolize sports so much. We idolize football players. There are so many things that we, in my opinion, as society, let them get away with because they're on our favorite soccer team, they're on our favorite football team. I'm not going to go into a political kind of right and wrong rant, but I do think it's important to see. Even in this documentary, they were interviewing people who till this day believe he is not guilty and that he's innocent simply because he's a football player who played on their favorite team and I loved him because he was great. How could you as a fan possibly know what this man is capable of? You are not his actual friend. You are not his family. You are a fan watching him do touchdowns and whatever on the football field. It is not at all the same. You know, people need to realize that because you idolize somebody does not mean they're incapable of doing bad things. That's not what it's about. And honestly, we let them get away with way too much. I'm not going to say who, but I think you guys know who I'm talking about. Football player in the States got away with rape multiple times. Many people witnesses. There's been more than one girl, and you know what? He still got away with it. His name's a long one, so that's the one I'm talking about. I'm not going to say it, but you guys, you know, if you don't know, look it up and promise it's all on the internet. Obviously, and then there's the other guy, captain of the swim team. He wasn't even professionally. I was swimming at his university. Didn't get enough jail time, if you ask me. Guys, you know, just because you idolize somebody doesn't mean that you're incapable of doing some very bad things. And this documentary touches especially on that. Yeah. Next, I want to talk about something very similar. It's called Minehunters. Oh. Look, as you guys can clearly tell, I love crime, but I love it even more when you just start to genuinely understand what's going on in their brains. I, as a person, always want to know everybody's motivation. I want to know why you felt like you had to lie the other day. I want to know why this serial killer committed 10, 20,000 crimes. Like, I want to know the motivation behind it because I find it so fascinating what goes on in the brain because not all of it makes sense, right? But to me, it's just crazy. So what Minehunters are about, it's situated in the 70s. I think it was right when Charles just been in jail. Anyways, so that's when there was a lot of prolific serial killers. Thank God we don't see as much of that. But that's when crime was at its highest and it was like crazy, disturbing crime. And serial killer wasn't coined yet. The term was not coined. Psychology with crime was not developed as it was today. We didn't really have profilers back then. And this show basically is set in that time where these two cops kind of come together and decide to start their very own profiling, psychopathy, serial killer, like task force, where they go and interview serial killers, try to understand their motivation, try to understand if it's something that stems from childhood, nurture versus nature, a lot of psychology. I don't want to give it all away, but I'll tell you one of the people they do talk to is Ed Kemper. Obviously, it's not the real people. They do find actors who look exactly the same and they retell their story. Could there be bias there? Possibly. But you learn a lot. I learned a lot and I'm just fascinated by this stuff. If it scares you, obviously don't watch it because it's, you know, they're not made up. This is true crime. It's just, I do think it's so interesting learning their motivation. This one is something I absolutely recommend to every single person who's not the faint of heart because it's genuinely a really good show. To wrap it up really quickly, my last show isn't something like a big bang or anything, called Lucifer. Lucifer is just something that I kind of watched. I'm not gonna lie, I had to waste time, but I enjoyed it. It's, long story short, the devil, the actual devil from hell, gets bored of hell, comes to Earth to wreak havoc on Earth. But then he meets this blonde woman who's actually a detective, and it's their crime story, and then they, you know, go do their thing maybe. But it's just funny because he always makes these cracks about gods, humans, angels, and devils, and everybody thinks he's kidding. But he's the actual devil incarnate. And it's funny because he does this thing where he does his eyes and the person has to tell the truth. But ooh, for some reason, doesn't work on this little detective. So it's just funny. It's one of those things, like I said, it feels good. It's funny. There's cliffhangers. It's not a deep story. I'm sorry, there's not much plot. But I liked it. It was fun. On that note, I know today's video is just me talking. Ugh, again, shocker. But, you know, if you're bored in quarantine, go watch a show and learn something. You know what I mean? Like, don't just sit there and watch and it just goes through your head like this and it's over. Think about what they're trying to say. Think about what's going on. Think about how they're trying to make you feel. Like, I know it's the little screen, it's television, but there are still directors directing it in a way that is meant to be. You are to feel something in some of these shows, and you're meant to learn something. So consider all that, and don't just waste your time. You know, and watch and try to see and through the lines of all the social topics and issues that they're discussing and talking about. Let me know if you guys do watch any of these shows or already do. Please message me because I love discussing these with people. If you get me started on a topic about a show, I will not stop. If you've seen any of these shows, message me. I've seen all of them. Let's talk about it. It's fascinating. I do really enjoy this stuff. So on that note, I will say bye to you guys, and I'll see you guys all next time.